Kwanzaa's ribs were a grim testament to the harsh African sun. Each one a ridge marking a day without a meal. It had been a week. A long, grueling week of hunger. Under the shade of the rocky koppies, his family waited. 2 lionesses, their own strength failing, and 3 small cubs, whose cries had become a constant, heartbreaking soundtrack to the night. The lionesses were weak, their golden coats matted with dust, their eyes holding a mixture of hope and despair every time they looked at him. Kwanzaa felt the weight of their gaze, the silent plea in their weary bodies. He dragged his own exhausted frame to his feet, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Today, he whispered to the unforgiving landscape, the words, a solemn vow, my family will eat. The promise ignited a spark in his tired muscles. They tightened, coiling with a purpose that defied his starvation. His tail, a barometer of his intent, began to twitch, a slow, deliberate rhythm against the dry earth. And then, his eyes, sharp and amber, locked onto his target. Zelani. The old Cape buffalo was a titan of the savannah, a walking fortress of muscle and horn. He grazed alone, a solitary figure cast out from his herd, his massive head lowered to the sparse grass. Kwanzaa had watched him for days, studying his every move, every flick of his ear, every swish of his tail. He knew this was not just a hunt. It was a gamble with the highest stakes. Zelani was old, yes, but old meant experienced, and his horns were lethal crescents that had ended many a predator's ambition. Kwanzaa began his stalk, a ghost in the tall grass. He moved with a patience born of desperation, each paw placed with surgical precision to avoid a single snapped twig. The wind was his ally, carrying his scent away from the buffalo. He could smell Zelani, the rich, earthy scent of him, and it made the cavern of his stomach ache with a ferocious emptiness. He thought of his cubs, their small, fragile bodies. He thought of the lionesses, their loyalty unwavering even in the face of starvation. This wasn't for him. His world had shrunk to this single, life-or-death moment. He crept closer, the distance closing yard by agonizing yard. Zelani was oblivious, lost in the rhythm of his chewing. Kwanzaa's body sank lower, a coiled spring of muscle and bone, ready to explode. The sun beat down, the air was thick with tension, and the world held its breath. He chose his moment when Zelani turned his massive head, offering a fleeting, vulnerable angle. With a roar that ripped through the silence, Kwanzaa launched himself forward. It was a blur of golden fur and raw power. He was airborne for a split second, a missile of pure predatory instinct, before he landed hard on Zelani's broad back. His claws, honed at deadly points, sank deep into the buffalo's thick hide, seeking purchase. Zelani bellowed, a sound of rage and surprise that shook the very ground. He bucked and spun, a whirlwind of fury, trying to throw the lion from his back. Kwanzaa held on his jaw clamped onto the buffalo's neck, his own body thrashed around like a rag doll. Dust and grass flew into the air, creating a chaotic vortex around the 2 combatants. It was a brutal dance, a clash of titans. Zelani was a force of nature. He crashed through acacia bushes, the thorny branches tearing at Kwanzaa's fur, but the lion refused to let go. His life, and the lives of his family, depended on this grip. He could feel Zelani's immense power, the sheer brute force that could crush him in an instant. The buffalo tried to ram him against a rocky outcrop, a desperate, intelligent maneuver. Kwanzaa saw it coming, and with a surge of adrenaline, he shifted his weight, using the buffalo's own momentum to pull them both sideways, avoiding a fatal impact. The struggle felt like an eternity. Kwanzaa's lungs burned, his muscles screamed in protest, and spots danced before his eyes. The taste of blood and dust filled his mouth. He was fighting the gnawing hunger, threatening to sap his last ounce of strength. But then, an image flashed in his mind. His cubs, their whimpers echoing in his ears. That sound, that memory, was the fuel he needed. He found a new reserve of strength from a place deep within his spirit. With a final, guttural roar, he twisted, sinking his teeth deeper, severing the vita artery. Zelani stumbled. The great buffalo's defiant bellows weakened to a gurgling moan. He staggered a few more steps, his legs trembling, before crashing to the earth with a ground-shuddering thud that sent a cloud of red dust billowing into the sky. For a long moment, there was only silence, broken by Kwanzaa's ragged, heaving breaths. He lay collapsed over his kill, too exhausted to move, his body a canvas of scratches and bruises. But he had done it. He had faced down death. Moon. Slowly, painfully, he lifted his head. The sun was beginning to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He let out a call, not a roar of triumph, but a deep, rumbling summons that rolled across the plains. It was a call that said, "It is done." He waited, his ears twitching, listening, and then he heard a Tan answering call from the direction of the copies. It was faint at first, then stronger. They were coming. He watched as two golden shapes emerged from the rocks, followed by three smaller, tumbling figures. The lionesses broke into a trot, their exhaustion forgotten, their pace quickening as they saw the feast that lay waiting. The cubs, energized by the prospect of food, gamboled and bounced behind them, their tiny roars more like excited squeaks. As his family approached, a profound sense of peace settled over Kwanzaa. The lionesses reached him first, nuzzling his battered face, their rough tongues licking his wounds in a gesture of gratitude and affection. The cubs swarmed him, climbing over his weary body, their playful energy a stark contrast to his own depletion. He watched as they all gathered around the fallen buffalo, the sounds of their feasting a symphony to his ears. The gnawing ache in his own belly was still there, but it was overshadowed by a far greater feeling of fulfillment. He had kept his promise. Tonight, his family would eat, their bellies would be full, and the cubs' cries would be replaced by the contented purrs of sleep. He lay his head down on his paws, the alpha, the protector, the father. He watched the stars begin to pepper the darkening sky, knowing he had earned this moment of rest. He had walked through the valley of hunger and emerged, not just as a survivor, but as a king who had provided for his pride. And in the heart of the great African wilderness, that was the only victory that truly mattered. Today, we're diving deep into one of nature's most epic confrontations. The cheetah versus the zebra. Imagine this. The vast, golden plains of the African savannah. The sun beats down, casting long shadows. In this seemingly peaceful landscape, a high-stakes drama is about to unfold. Our story begins with Zalani, a young zebra, grazing with his herd. He's strong, his black and white stripes, a dazzling pattern against the grass. But today, his stripes won't be enough for camouflage. A predator is near, hidden in the tall grass. A pair of golden eyes are locked onto the herd. Tizi Kwanzaa, a cheetah in his prime. He's a living embodiment of speed and power. His body is a marvel of evolution, built for one purpose: the chase. For days, Kwanzaa has been hungry. He's watched, he's waited, and now, the time is right. The wind is in his favor, carrying his scent away from the unsuspecting zebras. Kwanzaa begins his stalk. He moves with a silence that defies his size. A ghost in the grass. Each step is deliberate, placing his paws carefully to avoid snapping a single twig. He's a patient hunter, a master of stealth. His target is Zilani. The young zebra has strayed just a few feet from the safety of the herd, a small mistake that could cost him everything. Kwanzaa's muscles tense, his body coiling like a spring, ready to unleash a burst of explosive energy. The moment arrives. A wave of chaos erupts as hundreds of hooves thund across the plains. Zilani, caught by surprise, bolts. His life depends on this sprint. He runs with all the strength in his powerful legs, his black and white stripes blurring into a dizzying streak against the golden landscape. He is fast, incredibly fast, for a zebra. But is he fast enough? Kwanzaa is a different kind of fast. He's the fastest land animal on Earth. The chase is on. Kwanzaa's long, flexible spine arches and straightens, propelling him forward in breathtaking strides. He covers the ground in a way that seems to defy physics, his paws barely touching the earth. The distance between hunter and prey begins to close. What was once 100 meters is now 50. Zilani can hear the rhythmic pounding behind him, a sound that fuels his terror and pushes his body to its absolute limit. But Kwanzaa is relentless. Each powerful leap brings him closer. His lean muscles, stretched like coiled springs, work in perfect harmony. He's not just running. He's flying over the savannah. His claws are extended, digging into the dry soil for traction, launching him forward with even greater speed. He can taste the chase. His breath burns hot in his lungs. The gap shrinks with terrifying speed. 20 meters. 10. 8. Zilani zigzags, a desperate tactic to throw off his pursuer. It's a smart move. Zebras are masters of endurance and unpredictable turns. For a moment, it works. Kwanzaa has to adjust, his incredible speed momentarily checked by the sharp change in direction. This is Zilani's chance, a fleeting opportunity to gain a few precious meters. He puts on a new burst of speed, his heart feeling like it's about to explode in his chest. Hope, a tiny flicker of it, ignites within him. But Kwanzaa is a seasoned hunter. He's faced this tactic before. Recalibrates his tail, acting as a rudder, allowing him to turn with astonishing agility without losing momentum. He cuts the corner, anticipating Zilani's next move. The brief advantage Zilani gained evaporates in an instant. The chase is back on, and it's more intense than ever. The distance is now just 5 meters. Kwanzaa is so close he can see the individual hairs on Zilani's hide, see the sheer panic in the roll of his eyes. The final moment is here. Kwanzaa gathers every last ounce of his energy for the final, decisive attack. He lets out a fearsome, guttural roar that echoes across the plains, a sound of pure, primal power. Rara. The roar itself is a weapon, designed to startle and destabilize his prey. In that split second of hesitation, Kwanzaa makes his move. He leaps. It's a magnificent, terrifying arc through the air. He aims for Zilani's hind legs, the classic cheetah takedown strategy. His paw, armed with sharp, non-retractable claws, swings forward. If connects, he'll trip the zebra, sending him tumbling to the ground. The end would be swift. The laws of the savannah are brutal and unforgiving, but nature is full of surprises. Justas Kwanzaa's claws are about to make contact. Zilani does something unexpected. Fueled by pure adrenaline and the instinct for survival, he kicks not forward, but backward. A powerful, desperate mule kick, aimed directly at his pursuer's face. It's a 1 in a million shot, a last-ditch effort from an animal with nothing left to lose. The impact is shocking. Hoof connects with jaw. A sharp crack echoes, momentarily louder than the thunder of the chase. Kwanzaa is thrown off balance, his perfectly executed leap turning into an awkward, painful tumble. He rolls in the dust, stunned and disoriented. He doesn't waste a single second. He continues to run, his legs burning, his lungs screaming, but he runs. He runs back towards the only safety he knows. He's heard. The thundering hooves of his family are the most beautiful sound in the world. He merges back into the dizzying sea of black and white stripes, becoming just one of many, anonymous and safe. Kwanzaa slowly gets to his feet. He shakes his head, a dazed look in his golden eyes. His jaw is throbbing with pain. He looks toward the horizon where the zebra herd is now a distant, shimmering mirage. He's still hungry, yes, but he is a survivor. He will rest, he will heal, and he will hunt again. That is his nature. Today, the battle was won by the Zilani. The young zebra survived his first true test. He will carry the memory of the chase, the sound of the cheetah's roar, for the rest of his life. It's a harsh lesson in the wild, a reminder that every moment is precious, and on the vast, beautiful, and unforgiving plains of Africa, the eternal dance between predator and prey will continue. A timeless story of struggle, survival, and the raw, untamed spirit of the wild. It's a world where a single kick, a moment of defiance, can be the difference between life and death. What an incredible story of survival. It just goes to show you that even when the odds are stacked against you, there's always a fighting chance. If you were captivated by this epic chase, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories. Kwanzaa pounced. Zelani kicked backward with both hind legs. Thuum. A powerful strike to the lion's face. Kwanzaa tumbled into the dirt, roaring in pain. Blood dripped from his nose, but he rose again. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a battle for survival, and the plains were about to witness a clash of titans. Zelani, the zebra, wasn't just any prey. He was the lead stallion of his herd, his stripes a blur of black and white against the golden savannah. He carried the weight of his family's safety on his powerful shoulders. For days, Kwanzaa had stalked them, a shadow moving through the tall grass, his golden eyes fixed on one target. The pride was hungry, the cubs were weak, and Kwanzaa, as the dominant male, bore the responsibility to provide. The scent of rain was on the wind, promising relief from the long dry season, but also making the ground slick and the hunt more treacherous. Today, Kwanzaa had seen his chance. Zelani had strayed just a little too far from the main group, grazing on a patch of sweet grass near a cluster of acacia trees. The wind was in Kwanzaa's favor, carrying his scent away from the vigilant zebra. He crept forward, belly low to the ground, muscles coiling like immense springs. Every sense was on fire. The thumping of Zelani's heart seemed to echo in his own chest. Closer, closer, until he exploded from his cover. But Zelani was a veteran of these deadly games. He'd seen the slight twitch of a blade of grass, felt the sudden stillness in the air. As Kwanzaa launched, Zelani was already reacting. He didn't just run. Fort. That first kick was a statement. It said, "I am not easy prey." Kwanzaa tasted blood, his own. The sting in his nose was sharp, infuriating. The roar that ripped from his throat was not just of pain, but of a keen's wounded pride. He shook his massive head, clearing the stars from his vision, and locked his eyes back onto Zelani. The chase was on. Zelani galloped, his hooves pounding a frantic rhythm on the hard-packed earth. He was fast, incredibly fast, but Kwanzaa was a master of endurance and strategy. The lion didn't run in a straight line. He cut across the terrain, using every dip and rise to his advantage, trying to herd the zebra towards a rocky outcrop, where his footing might fail. The rest of the zebra herd had scattered, their panicked calls fading into the distance. It was just the two of them now, a primal duel under the vast African sky. The sun beat down relentlessly, draining the strength from both hunter and hunted. Zelani's lungs burned, his powerful legs beginning to feel heavy. He could hear the lion's guttural breaths getting closer, a terrifying, rhythmic panting that promised death. He risked a glance back. Kwanzaa was a terrifying sight, a golden demon with a bloody face, closing the gap with terrifying speed. Zelani knew he couldn't outrun him forever. He needed a plan. Ahead, the landscape changed. A shallow, muddy riverbed, a remnant of the last rains, cut a winding path through the plain. It was a risk. The mud could trap him, slow him down fatally, but it could also slow the lion. With no other choice, Zelani veered sharply and plunged into the murky water. The mud sucked at his hooves, just as he feared. Each step was a struggle. He fought against the pull, his heart hammering against his ribs. Kwanzaa didn't hesitate. He leaped into the riverbed behind him, the water and mud splashing up around his powerful chest. For a moment, the predator's advantage was gone. Here, in the clinging mud, it was a contest of pure, brute strength. Kwanzaa lunged, his claws extended, swiping at Zelani's hind legs. He connected, tearing through skin and muscle. Zelani cried out in pain, a sharp, piercing sound. He stumbled, almost going down. This was it. The final moment. Kwanzaa gathered himself for the killing leap, aiming for the neck. But Zelani wasn't finished. Fueled by a desperate surge of adrenaline, he twisted his body with incredible force. Instead of falling, he pivoted, facing his attacker head-on. His teeth were bared, his ears flat against his head. Area reared up his front hooves, flashing like weapons, and struck downward at the lion's head. The blow caught Kwanzaa on the side of the jaw. The lion staggered, momentarily stunned by the zebra's ferocious counterattack. It was the opening Zelani needed. He didn't wait for a second invitation. He turned and scrambled, half running, half swimming through the rest of the muddy riverbed. He found solid ground on the other side and pushed himself into a desperate, limping gallop. Kwanzaa recovered quickly, his hunter's instincts screaming at him to follow. He pulled himself from the mud, his magnificent coat now caked in filth and blood. He stood on the riverbank, watching the wounded zebra disappear over the horizon. He could still give chase. He was wounded, but Zelani was wounded too. He could still run him down. But as he stood there, panting, the cries of his own hungry cubs echoed in his memory. A long chase after an injured but determined foe was risky. He could sustain more injuries, leaving his pride vulnerable. With a final, frustrated roar that echoed across the empty plains, Kwanzaa let him go. This battle was over. He turned, his head low, and began the long, painful walk back towards his pride, defeated and empty. He carried the scars of the encounter: a bloody nose, a bruised jaw, and the stinging wound of failure. Meanwhile, miles away, Zelani finally slowed to a halt. His leg was on fire, and his body trembled with exhaustion and fear. But he was alive. He had faced the king of the savannah and had won his life. He lifted his head and called out, a loud, clear bray that carried on the winter call to his scattered family. One by one, they would find him. They would regroup. The herd had lost its perfect patch of grass, but it had not lost its leader. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the land, two kings retreated from their battlefield. One, a lion, to lick his wounds and face the hunger of his family. The other, a zebra, to lead his herd to safety, his stripes forever telling the story of the day he fought back. In the unforgiving world of the savannah, survival is a victory. And today, against all odds, Zelani was the victor. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible story from the wild. The courage and resilience of animals like Zelani are truly inspiring. If you enjoyed this tale of survival, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories from the natural world. Let me know in the comments what you think. Who were you rooting for? Until next time, stay curious.